Dear Taurus, there are moments in life when an invitation feels like a safe harbor, yet it hides a deeper truth, a gilded cage cloaked in the guise of stability. If you've felt your foundations tremble lately in response to something that others may overlook, then heed this message closely. This isn't just another article. It's a heartfelt communication from your guardian angel, the universe, and your own inner wisdom. Tomorrow holds a significant moment for you, and if you find yourself in the wrong place, you risk losing the very ground you have so painstakingly cultivated on your arduous journey. A card I drew today carries a powerful warning, which I will reveal in part 3. It signifies that your soul stands before a pivotal doorway of fate. It's crucial that you stay with me until the end, as some encounters are not merely about meeting others, they are about confronting your own karma. Your intuition is a steady compass, yet it may feel muted by the weight of loyalty and the fear of change. There's a truth within you that never abandons you, even when the world seems to shift. That truth is your soul's foundation, and it's sending out tremors. Dear Taurus, have you noticed those tremors growing stronger, not because they are new, but because you've allowed old commitments and familiar comforts to drown them out? Imagine standing in a house you've always loved, only to notice the foundation is cracked. I know you've felt that warning before, not in words, but in sensations. Perhaps it's a heaviness in your chest, an unshakable anxiety at the thought of returning somewhere, or a gut feeling urging you to stay put, even when your mind says everything is fine. Yet, you find yourself on the verge of going, not out of ignorance, but out of a desire not to disrupt the stability you've grown accustomed to. You've grown used to prioritizing tangible security over your soul's evolution, even when that very security has become a source of stagnation. I've encountered many souls like yours, those who sensed the impending storm but returned anyway because someone said, "Nothing has changed." In that moment, they betrayed their own growth. In Buddhism, this is known as attachment upadana, where loyalty becomes a chain that binds rather than a pillar that supports. Remember the words of a wise sage. Protect the sacred ground I have prepared within you. That ground is your soul, a space that needs fertile soil to grow, and not everyone deserves to walk upon it, regardless of how long they've been in your life. I once heard a poignant story from a 58-year-old Taurus man who through tears, recounted attending a family business meeting at his brother's request, only to leave feeling depleted and trapped. That moment left me speechless, because the deepest pain often arises not from the actions of others, but from betraying our own truth. You know what feels right. You sense what is wrong. Yet, you still find yourself agreeing out of habit or loyalty, believing you can endure just one more instance of stagnation. Taurus, you don't need another disappointment to recognize that this place, this person, or this situation no longer serves your growth. Your intuition is not weak. It has never been silent. It has simply been muffled by the echoes of the past. Today, however, your soul is rumbling louder, urging you to listen. Do not betray me again. Come home. You are not at fault for wanting to stay put. You are simply learning to honor your truth. The reality is that no stability is so precious that you should sacrifice your peace to maintain it. Take a moment to breathe deeply and ask yourself, what am I prioritizing over my own evolution? Is my decision rooted in love or merely in the habit of clinging to comfort? If this resonates with you, consider writing it down as a sacred vow. This time, I will not sacrifice my growth for the sake of comfort. You deserve to step into tomorrow on solid ground, free from the invisible anchors that weigh you down. If you're still uncertain, stay tuned for part 2, where the signs from the universe become unmistakable, shaking the ground with each passing hour. Once you recognize them, there will be no turning back. The universe has been gently shaking the ground beneath you, urging you to pay attention. Don't wait until it tears down the house. There are nights when you feel restless, not due to worries or nightmares, but because something feels off, an unease that lingers, like a crack on the wall you try to ignore. You might dismiss it, telling yourself you're too stubborn or just imagining things. But don't be so quick to judge yourself. The universe doesn't arrive with thunderous proclamations. Instead, it sends subtle tremors, a heaviness in your body, a knowing that transcends words. If you've recently experienced small accidents, cancelled plans, or a sudden draining of energy at the thought of a certain gathering or person, don't ignore it. The universe is shaking the ground, not to frighten you, but to guide you away from paths that no longer support your spirit. You've likely brushed aside these feelings before, labeling them as mere coincidence or emotional overreactions. But your soul has been speaking to you all along, first as a vague discomfort, then as a recurring pattern, and finally as an unsettling sense that you're being watched from another realm. This time, you cannot pretend not to know. In Buddhist teachings, there's a profound reminder: when your heart stirs without reason, return inward and listen. That's where the truth lies. In the Old Testament, it is said that the angel knocks, but if you ignore it, the blessing passes by. Don't allow this sacred opportunity to slip away simply because you lacked the courage to pause. I recall a story from a woman in my audience, also a Taurus, who had planned a weekend trip with old friends. The night before, her car broke down unexpectedly. Frustrated, she had to cancel. The next day, a friend texted her, saying, "I'm glad you didn't come. I overheard them planning to lure you into a shady investment." Those were people she once trusted. She told me, "If I had gone, I would have handed them the financial security I worked so hard to build." This is the essence of what I want you to grasp. Not every invitation requires your presence. Sometimes, your absence is the most sacred act of self-preservation. You don't owe anyone your presence, especially not in places that seek to drain the resources you've worked so hard to cultivate. All you need is the courage to trust your gut, even if no one else understands it. Are you recalling something now? An accident, a feeling of dread, a strange coincidence that made you want to retreat? Close your eyes and let that memory rise. Don't run from it or rationalize it away. This time, listen. If your heart is quietly affirming this truth, write it down. As a ritual, I have felt the tremor, and this time, I will not ignore it. You deserve to move forward with awareness, not toward a blinding light, but into the true light where no one can manipulate your loyalty again. You might wonder, if I don't go, what will happen? The answer is that another door will open, one entirely different. But that can only happen when you refuse to walk through the one that's already closed. Now, let's explore the karmic crossroads where your soul finds itself. This isn't merely a meeting, it's a critical turning point. Do you remember the comfort of the familiar path you once walked in those moments? Your intuition tried to steer you. Tomorrow is not just another day, it's a karmic turning point, a crossroads without clear signs. Yet, your soul has been waiting at this juncture for a long time. You may think you're merely deciding whether to attend, but the truth is that you're choosing the trajectory of your life. This choice is not about fear. It's about pausing to truly listen. You're on the brink of entering a sacred realm where the lines have already been drawn. One misstep doesn't just mean missing an event. It means bypassing a doorway that can only be opened by standing firmly on the right side of destiny. Have you ever felt as though you were being tested? Unsure of the reason a sudden message appears after a long silence, an invitation resurfaces from the past, or a familiar voice calls your name, yet your soul recoils as if it has heard a warning. I understand that feeling, the inner tug of war. You might be facing the most significant soul test of the year. The universe isn't forcing you to answer. Stillness itself is a choice. That choice sends a message to the heavens: you're ready to move forward, or you wish to replay an old scene of stagnation that cost you dearly. This morning, I pulled a card for you, the Devil. It revealed a chain, reminding us that you are bound to a situation, a habit, or a material attachment that is no longer healthy. An invitation that seems safe may actually lead your spirit back to the cage where it once felt trapped. But the second card I drew, the Sun, is a card of liberation. In this context, it doesn't represent an outcome, but a condition. The sun shines only if you choose not to go. It opens the true door only when you refuse the false one. It illuminates a new path if you dare to turn your back on the call that once kept you small. Taurus, you've been loyal more than you ever needed to be. You've been patient more than even the greatest spiritual teachers would ask. In the Dharma, karma doesn't arrive with thunder. It comes as an opportunity to choose differently. Each time you repeat the past, it's not punishment, it's a delay of the blessings already waiting for you. In the Old Testament, an angel once said to Lot, "Leave and don't look back," not because what's behind is frightening, but because what lies ahead has been prepared for you. If you keep turning around, that place can never manifest again. I don't know where you plan to go tomorrow. Perhaps a meeting, a reunion, or a space filled with memories. But I do know this. You already sense that it no longer fits you. It's not that the place has changed, it's that you have evolved. Your soul no longer resonates with that old vibration. You cannot squeeze your light into a space designed for stagnation. If you choose to go, you're not merely entering a location. You're returning to a karmic layer your soul has already outgrown. However, if you choose not to go, you reclaim your sovereignty of light. You no longer need permission to be still, nor do you need to explain why peace is your birthright. When you choose what is right, without seeking validation from others, something miraculous unfolds. The universe rewards you with something that has never existed on the old map: a confirmation, a door you thought was locked, a truth that reveals itself without you needing to ask. Once, someone told me they didn't attend a reunion, even though they felt guilty. That evening, they received a dream from their deceased father, who said, "You just stepped away from a pit you never knew was there." I felt a profound silence. Not because the story was strange, but because the way they spoke was weightless, devoid of bitterness and filled solely with love. Dear Taurus, you don't need an apology to walk away. You don't need proof to say no. All you require is the faith strong enough to refrain from returning to the place you once left behind. You've loved deeply enough to recognize when it's time to move on. Not going isn't about rejecting someone, it's about finally choosing yourself. You may feel a hollow ache or a sense of misunderstanding. Someone might accuse you of being stubborn, but true light doesn't seek praise. It simply needs to be protected. You are the only one who can safeguard your soul. Take a deep breath and envision a version of yourself tomorrow at home. Calm, with no need to explain. Feel a wave of peace rising from your chest, like cool water. It's nothing loud or flashy. It's just the quiet, knowing that you made the right choice. If that feeling has surfaced within you, it's not mere imagination, it's your soul whispering from the future. If your heart is softly affirming this truth, write it down as a promise to yourself. I choose my soul. I will not return to the old pasture. In the final part, you will witness the most sacred miracle. You were not abandoned. You were summoned to a place more worthy, a place that opens only when you dare to close the old gate. That place is no longer your home, and you are no longer the one waiting at its gate. You once stood there, longing for security, understanding, and recognition. You hoped that with enough patience, loyalty, and selflessness, everything would change. But today, as you reflect, you realize it wasn't that you weren't enough. It was that the place never knew how to hold someone like you. Dear Taurus, you've outgrown the pastures that made you feel small. You've transcended the rooms that forced you to shrink to fit in. You've outshone the environments that demanded you dim your light to spare others discomfort. Some may label you stubborn, ungrateful, or changed. They won't comprehend why you turned away because, to them, you've always been the dependable one who would never rock the boat. Only you understand that it was your very loyalty that nearly suffocated the destiny you were meant to build. There exists a delicate line between steadfastness and self-destruction, and you have stood on that edge for far too long. But today, you are no longer standing there. You are not the one waiting at that threshold, hoping despite knowing the truth. You are not the one making excuses for the wounds inflicted by others. You are not weak. You are not cruel. You are simply returning to the ground that the universe ignited within you, reclaiming your right to live as your true self. In the teachings of the Buddha, there's a poignant reminder: to release what no longer serves you is to offer it to the awakened part of yourself. Letting go is not a loss. It's a reclamation of light. Your soul will understand this truth the moment it hears it. The chosen do not require reasons to leave. The path prepared for them needs no defense. You don't need to explain anything to anyone. You don't need to recount your suffering or revisit every silent cry. You don't need evidence to walk away from what no longer feels like home. One of my viewers, a 70-year-old Taurus, once shared, "I stood at their gate, but my soul refused to enter. I turned around and a new garden bloomed within my heart." Not everyone can grasp that feeling, the moment you loved enough to stop, the moment you were loyal enough to know you no longer needed to be, the time you stood beside pain, long enough to realize it wasn't destiny, but a lesson. Every lesson must conclude for a new chapter to begin. You are no longer a prisoner of promises. You are the keeper of the light that the universe placed within you long before anyone called you by name. You are a child of the earth, the chosen one. And someone like you doesn't need to pretend to stay. You don't need anyone to understand. You don't need anyone's agreement to walk away. All you need is to look clearly in the mirror and recognize that you are no longer the one who remains silent. This is the miracle. You have lived too long in the role of endurance. But today, you are choosing peace, choosing light, choosing your soul. Sit quietly and whisper in your heart like a sacred vow, "I heard you, universe. I will not go to that place again. Even this soft declaration will open a gateway in your frequency, forging a new path where you no longer repeat the same mistakes or wound yourself for another's sake. If your heart feels lighter, if tears flow for no apparent reason, know that it's your soul being released from its final burden. Write it down, not as a grand statement, but as a sincere commitment. I have closed the old gate, so a new harvest can enter. As we approach the conclusion, you will receive the final confirmation from the spirit realm, not in words or theories, but in a sign, a movement, a phenomenon meant solely for you at this moment. Dear Taurus, you have not been left behind. You have been summoned. This is not a warning. It's confirmation from the universe that your moment has arrived. No more waiting. No more carrying what isn't yours. No more seeking permission to be who you truly are. You have traversed the darkness long enough for the light to finally recognize you. From this day forward, the old gate closes, allowing a brand new chapter to unfold, one where you don't have to sacrifice to remain. You will stay because you are the light. Thank you for your bravery in listening. Thank you for not turning away from the deepest call within you. I wish you a peace that requires no justification, a love that needs no explanation, and a home where your soul can finally take root and whisper, "At last, I've come home." If this journey resonates with you, write it down as a sacred promise. I am ready to cultivate the garden I deserve. Because you are worthy. You always have been.